you do have to have a thick skin, okay? Because, it sits on you at the end of the day. You're going to make some calls, and not every one of them are going to be right. Yeah. And not everybody's going to agree with you all the time. That is sure as heck the truth as well. But if you've got a vision and you can sell it to others, hopefully the ones that believe in you, will ride along with you. And those that don't, you might part ways. And that's okay. Everybody needs to find their thing. If this is your thing, great. And if it's not, go find your thing, right? Yeah. Whatever that may be.
This is the Main Street Reimagined podcast, a show for people ready to turn visions into realities and ideas into businesses. Hey, I'm Luke Henry, and each week I lead conversations with Main Street dreamers who took the leap to launch a business, renovate a building, or start a movement. Their ideas, their mindsets, and their inspirations, as well as some of the highs and lows along the way. This is a place for dreamers, creators, developers, and entrepreneurs to learn, share, and be inspired to change your community through small business. Enjoy the show. Hey friends, Luke Henry here. This is the Main Street Reimagined podcast, and we are back with another week of great conversation and talking with dreamers, doers, entrepreneurs, innovators, and hopefully pulling out some stuff that resonates with those of you that are watching and listening. We sure appreciate you tuning in again. I will make sure that the next 40, 45 minutes here are well worth your investment of time, and I'm excited to have with me today Chad Hoffman from Richwood Bank. Yes. Chad, thank you for being here.
It's an honor to be here, Luke.
Yeah,
thank you.
Absolutely. I'm really looking forward to the conversation. Before you turn this off and say, it's another one about banking.
Oh, no.
We're not going to talk too much about banking today. We've got a whole suite of other things that Chad is, I'd say, a darn near an expert on, at least well-experienced, and we're going to pull some of the gold out of his brain here as he talks about some of the creative and innovative things they've done, not just with banking, but beyond through his organization. And so if somebody's listening, then they're in a place far away and they've never heard of Richwood, Ohio or Richwood Bank, tell them a little bit about what you do and just kind of in 30 seconds, what all ground you're covering down there in Richwood.
No, understood. I appreciate it, Luke. We started in 1867 there in Richwood, and Richwood's a town of about 2,500 people. They're in the very northern tip of Union County. We operate in Plain City. We operate in Marysville, LaRue. So that's our Marion County, piece there. We picked that up back in 1998. We're in Delaware. We're in Bellefontaine, Springfield, and I said Plain City already. I think I covered all of them. But there's 9 offices in total. And again, we're about a $1.2 billion bank. So we're what you would consider kind of mid-tier on the banking front. But at the same time, our focus is communities. Our whole vision is to inspire, protect, and celebrate anything that helps communities thrive. Because, again, that's where we live. It's where we work. It's where we play. We want it to be a stronger place. When I was younger, I wanted to go to Wall Street. I wanted to be in New York. And then all of a sudden I got engaged and married, and that didn't seem as attractive. Then you have kids, Luke. And now New York is not interesting at all anymore. To move back where I grew up was not something that was in my original plan. But to build communities and to make them stronger, across the board. And that's what your entrepreneurs do, right? That's where their businesses are located. And we just enjoy working with them.
Yeah. We're going to get into some of the growth you've experienced and some of the innovations that you've created there as you've been involved with that organization and really done some cool stuff. But before we jump into that, tell me a little bit about growing up and how you landed yourself as a bank president. It's been I know part of this story, but it's an interesting road to get there.
I grew up, my father's family were farmers. We farm about 3,000 acres is what we do there in the northern part of Union County. And so I was a farmhand. That's what I did. I scraped hog barns when I was in junior high. I had a little moped. That was my chores every day.
Love it.
I lived about a half mile from the farm. And so, we did grain. Obviously, when I started, we had sheep, we had hogs, we had cattle. Sheep were the first things to go. I did find out that sheep are the dumbest animal on the face of the earth. If you didn't know that, I always say there's a reason why the Bible refers to humans as sheep, right? Is for that very reason, Luke. So then we kept the hogs all the way through me being through school. So, I would come back from high school every summer, and that's what we would do. Worked a lot of ground. I thought I would always fall asleep in the tractor because I'm like, what does your brain do when you're driving? But found out that you keep yourself entertained and you just sit there and think. But my mother's family was in banking, and my grandfather was president of Richwood Bank, and in 1976 handed it over to my uncle, who then passed away sadly in 1993. He was 47 and died of a heart attack in his sleep. Wow. And that was unexpected. And my mother took over at that time. She was cashier at the bank. There were 24 employees, and it was about $68 million in assets. I started the next month, so that had been January of 1994. I had worked here in Marion at Holbrook Manor, Nichols and Rogers at the time is what it was called. Love what you've done with that office, by the way. It's a beautiful place.
We just left there. We had a great trip down memory lane for Chad and I, comparing notes to what the building was, and now that is the home of Connect Coworks, as well as still the offices in a different fashion for Holbrook and Mantor accountants. And it's
if you haven't seen that space, I encourage you to get in there. If you need co-working space, that's the place to go. That center part of Marion, plenty of parking, and just you're just right in the downtown of Marion area. So appreciate a chance to 30 years later getting to see a beautiful building like that. That was
fun for me too. So thank you.
But like you said, the fact that they covered in all the windows, I didn't get to see any windows when I was there, Luke. So I appreciate the fact that you got some windows back there again. But no, after I got my CPA license, after 2 years of working at the accounting firm, I actually had accepted a job at the Marion Bank. A gentleman by the name of Michael Steen, who had started the Marion Bank. Gary Pendleton was his vice president, and I met with both of them, and I accepted a job from them. And in my 2-week notice period to the accounting firm, my uncle passed away. Wow. So I ended up not working for Marion Bank. I called Mike and I apologized, but ended up starting working for Richwood on January 24th of 94. So It's been over 31 years now.
That's incredible, and what a ride! Yeah, you took over, and it was a very small bank.
Yeah, 68 million. Yes,
even in that day terms, that was a pretty small bank.
That was a pretty small bank. We were in Richwood and we were in Plain City. We'd started in Plain City in '76. That was one of the last things my grandfather and uncle kind of did together. Grandfather started it, uncle finished it, but we had the office in Plain City, and those are the only 2 branches we had. And I was employee number 24 when I came on. So 68 million, 24 employees. Today, like I said, we're about 1.2 billion, and we have about 210 employees in total. And I've just got to work with some great people over the last 30 years. They've taught me a lot about banking and just kind of about entrepreneurship. I mean, I've seen a lot of great entrepreneurs, working with them from a lending perspective as well as an account perspective, and to learn from them and some of the things that they're doing is pretty incredible. Yeah.
Entrepreneurs are great people to hang around. I mean, that tends to be the flock that I fly with, I guess, and just inspirational, hardworking. And it's great. So it's awesome that you've been able to spend time with those, and I think that you certainly are one as well. An entrepreneur, and have done some really creative things. So starting with Richwood Coffee, tell a little bit about that venture, and then you've also had some other pop-up departments, or whatever we call those, that again are kind of non-traditional in the banking world.
Well, I think the entrepreneurs that are listening and that are watching will understand just the needs change, right? You want to stay relevant, whatever you're doing, whatever your business model is, you want to stay relevant. Well, if you look at the number of banks in the last, in Ohio in the year 2000, there were 300 banks and savings and loans in the state. Okay. Today, there's less than 160. And so you're saying in 25 years, half of them are gone. I mean, you look at that, Luke, and you say, okay, and you're starting to feel a little bit like Blockbuster, right? I mean, fewer and fewer people are starting to rent your videos, but hey, everything's okay. Maybe not. Maybe we need to be looking at our model and trying to figure out what else we can do besides just accounts and loans. So Richwood Coffee was developed 10 years ago, and our whole concept, we wanted to try to get more talent into the bank, bring people there that kind of were entrepreneurs themselves, and see if we couldn't hire them in, have them work for us, come up with some new ideas. But the problem was when they walked into my lobby, it looked like the 1950s. That doesn't necessarily inspire entrepreneurship, right? I mean, it's not that you can't take advantage of some things that look really cool, but just overall it looked old. And so we needed to revamp it and but to put all that money into it. Today, you don't have to come into the bank to do your banking anymore. You can do it in your underwear at home, on your computer, or on your phone 24/7.
Exactly.
So we said, okay, if we're going to put all this money into the remodel, what else can we do that makes people come into the building that we have here? How can we leverage the building? So we have some meeting space in there as well as a full-blown coffee shop. We actually use Crimson Cup out of Columbus. A guy by the name of Greg Hubert is a friend, and he allows us to buy his coffee. And since I don't sell it, he allows me to brand it Richwood Coffee. And so it's legitimate, Starbucks style coffee. I mean, we're right there competing with Luke. And so when I say competing, it's that style, but we're not allowed to sell coffee. Federal Reserve, there's a little act out there called Glass-Steagall, and it says you can't mix commerce and banking. That's why Walmart doesn't have a bank. That's why Apple doesn't have its own bank, is because they sell products, which means they can't do financial services. So with that, it became a donation model. So when I called the Fed, they said, well, if you sell coffee, you pretty much can't do it. But if you don't sell coffee, you can do anything you want. So we said, all right, we're not going to sell coffee. We're just going to do it through a donation model. You come in, you make a donation to one of our beneficiaries, which is about 7 places per office. Each office has different ones. Like I said, 6 out of our 9 offices have these coffee shops. And there's about 7 or 8 donation spots. You make a donation, for instance, $20 donation gets you 6 cups at our coffee shop. What you decide to put in the cup is up to you. So there's no pricing to it. It's just a number of drinks that you've got on your card or in your name. They know your name as well as, you can pull up a card number if you need to, but they know exactly how many drinks you have. You can refill it. You do not have to be a customer to join. But this year we're hoping to hit $1 million in donations to nonprofits.
Incredible.
And that's all through cups of coffee. So it's something that we would have never dreamed would be this big. Has turned out it just continues to grow every month. So we're offering these great drinks, but they also are giving to something that they want to give to. And what's really fun is when the beneficiaries have started sending their people to us. So in other words, people that you love the Humane Society. The Humane Society says, hey, don't go get your drink and don't pay for it if you don't have to. Go and make a deposit or make a donation to Union County Humane Society and get your drinks that way. And so when they're starting to send people to us, these are people that probably aren't our customers, and we have a chance to then build a relationship. So I'm not trying to compete with other coffee shops in the area. That's not the goal. The goal is to get people to walk in that have never seen our bank before, build relationships with our teams. That's why I don't have drive-throughs on the sides of a bank for coffee. Is I'm really not trying to make it easier for you to get coffee. I'm trying to get you to build a relationship. Come and use our bank for a third space, right? That place in between home and work that you can come in. We've got seating for like 20 or 30. We have music that plays. It's a free Wi-Fi bar. We open at 7 in the morning. To try to get people before they go to work or before they go to school. And the bank is open all during that period as well. So it's the relationship. That's where community banks kind of excel. And we just really need to be able to leverage that.
How has that transformed? If you can think about before and after a coffee shop has went into one of your bank lobbies, what has it done not only for the traffic, but for the culture of the bank and just the feel, the vibe when you walk in? I have to think that it makes a significant impact.
It absolutely does. I mean, to have people, it's always fun to see somebody walk in at the first time, right? Because again, the first thing they see is a coffee shop when they walk into a bank. So they're kind of shocked by that. So it's always fun to have the first person or, that person that's never seen it before, because my staff gets to talk to them about it. And about the concept, and they get a free drink anytime you come in. And if you've never used it before, you've never been in there, the first drink's on us, just so you get the experience and what that's supposed to be. But then my team they don't. you don't want them to wait for 20 minutes in between customers, right? You want that lobby to be busy. People are attracted by energy.
Yeah,
A great
absolutely.
book out there called Fish, that talks about the Pike's fish market, and in Seattle, where they're throwing these fish around. I mean, they're literally just throwing fish around, but they do it in a fun way. They get a crowd that stands around watching these guys sell fish. Same thing in the banking, right? If we can get a room full of people that are talking and communicating, we have celebrity baristas sometimes. So, like the superintendent of schools might come and be a barista for an hour. Well, during that period, if we can get more people to come in, what was neat in Richwood here recently, we had 2 past retired VOAG teachers.
Okay.
So everybody that had them as a student came into the bank during the period that they were, I think it was a 3-hour period that they were going to be the guest baristas. And we had a great big full lobby. I mean, we became the place in town to be.
Yeah.
And how many banks get to say that?
Yeah.
So that it invigorates our team. Yes, it's stressful for them, but they wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very cool. And then really, that was kind of the initial sort of innovative thing that you did. And then as entrepreneurs do, as innovators do, you saw another need based on the customers that you were serving.
Yeah.
And that led to another offshoot.
It did, Luke. When you go back to 2013 and 14, and Pandora was just becoming popular, right?
Yeah,
I mean, this was
yeah.
a new
I remember
thing,
those
right?
days. Yep.
Everybody's listening to Pandora. Well, if you remember, you could get ads on Pandora. You'd be listening to it, and when it first came out, there were ads. Now, of course, you can pay. You don't need it, but at the same time, you could geofence those ads. So all of a sudden, we hired a marketing director that was just a real innovative person, and she says, hey, we need to get on Pandora. That would be something that would just open us up. So it only hit people around Richwood and around Plain City, where we were operating in Marysville at the time. So pretty much all of Union County. But I didn't have to advertise to Columbus, where I don't have banks, or it's not like being on TV or on radio stations where you're hitting so many areas that you're not. This was very targeted.
Yeah.
So people that were in our area that were listening to Pandora, all of a sudden they're hearing a Richwood Bank ad. And they were so impressed. I mean, we'd hit the big time, right? It was like we were in the movies or something. But, they came and asked how we were doing it. Well, my marketing director was so kind of innovative. She used the opportunity. She started doing some shout outs to some of the companies that we worked with, some of our best clients. In our ads, she would say their names. And just get their names out there. All of a sudden, I'm getting thank you cards and flower planters to my office thanking me for them hearing their own names on Pandora. Well, we started thinking about saying, we could monetize this. I mean, this is something we can help them do. So we actually helped them start creating, commercials of their own. We started what we call Richwood Marketing. I now have 8 people that work. We do graphics design, we do websites, we do videography, we do social media, but things that help small businesses. These are things that they don't necessarily know how to do. And we can help them do that because, again, the stronger the community businesses, the stronger the community banks. So if we can help them, with these kinds of things and getting better exposure to them, we believed it helped us too.
Yeah.
So we love the win-win situations, and there it was. So Richwood Marketing started back in 2015, and we now grosses over $1 million a year through that business alone.
Yeah, yeah, and then has led to a couple other
payroll is another one we do.
right?
Richwood Payroll, we saw a lot of people that were getting penalties on their payroll, or we found out, we were kind of looking into their accounts sometimes, and you could tell this is not going well. They're getting hit with some penalties. There's some things they don't understand about payroll. We had everything we needed internally with a bank, the way that we can send and receive money. We actually used QuickBooks to start, and we were helping companies do their own payroll. Now we use another company, and we are a pass-through, so it makes it a little bit easier. And we do up right at 200 companies' payrolls today, anywhere from 1 to about 40 to 50. Our sweet spot's kind of in between 5 and 50 employees. That's where it's great. But we're really just targeting those small businesses that we work with that just don't have a payroll person on hand. They were paying somebody in Columbus, they're paying somebody else. I mean, if you're using a local accountant, we're happy with that, right? But if you're trying to use some kind of online service for your payroll or do it yourself, it's something that we could help them with.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, we're doing about 200 companies' payrolls right now. Richwood Consulting is one that we're just starting this year. It's a new one that we use for. We found out that companies aren't great hiring for themselves, so we help them kind of advertise, source.
Yes.
Team members, and then how to interview to get the team member that you want,
Yeah.
and to kind of help them out with that process, and some HR things when it comes to training, management skills, leadership skills. We even have a customer de-escalation class. How do you talk a customer off the ledge, right? If they're really upset on the phone or in person, how do you talk to them in a way that kind of brings them down?
Yeah.
And but the strategic planning is another one. Delegation's one that we just developed. We're teaching our people internally these things, Luke. So to share it with our customers, why wouldn't we do that?
Yeah, absolutely. You've hosted workshops,
Yep.
Different gatherings and trainings, really all centered around this concept of trying to build stronger businesses, stronger leaders in the community. And that's in turn the whole concept of a rising tide.
Absolutely.
You're helping create that rising tide. And yes, I mean, these are for-profit services that you're providing, but people would be paying for them elsewhere anyway. And so I just think this is, very innovative and a great lesson and takeaway for other businesses that are saying, that maybe are thinking or should be thinking, hey, we have this group of customers. We have this group of people we're serving. Do they have other needs that we can meet maybe better than the next guy? Do we just need to go and talk with them? I mean, it sounds like these were really sort of organically, these didn't necessarily come out of some think tank session. This was like just customers coming to you and say, hey, could you? And then you're like, wait a minute. Yeah, we could. Right. I mean, tell a little bit more. I'm guessing, but
no, that's exactly. I mean, again, a great book out there, The E-Myth Revisited. I think I talked to you about it, by Michael Gerber. He says, entrepreneurs are very good at working in their business. They're not great at working on their business, right? They know how to make widgets, or they know how to provide a specific service, and they know how to do it really, really well. But they don't necessarily know all the other parts of business. And part of it's marketing yourself. Part of it's just getting your payroll done, right? If you start getting employees. Part of it's about education and how do you learn more yourself as well as, teach your employees things as it goes forward. Because as you just start to get bigger, you're going to need managers now. And managing people is a whole new thing today.
Yes, it is.
And, how do you learn these things? It doesn't magically happen through osmosis. So, how can we help that small business kind of excel? I'm never going to have the Walmart account. I'm never going to have Apple's account. Okay. These are big boxes. That's not going to be me. But if, it's a business on the street, that's one that I want. I mean, the entrepreneurs, if you want the community to be, visiting your business or using you as a business, we want that to happen as well. Like I said, stronger community businesses make stronger community banks. My team has heard me say repeatedly, if the only human being you see is the UPS driver as they deliver your Amazon order, you don't need a community and you don't need a community bank. We're looking for those people that really, that are involved in the business, the chambers of commerce, in the counties that are involved with other entrepreneurs in some way. The good grief are just coaching, they might be coaching baseball or coaching softball or just involved with the teams. But these are people that are kind of vested in the community. That's why our vision is what it is, to inspire, protect, and celebrate. And it's just simply because the communities are so important, and the community bank won't thrive unless it thrives too. So it gets right back what you said about the rising tide. It helps us all. So when we see people struggling, it's like, well, can we do that service? Richwood Financial is there. That's the wealth management. A lot of banks have that, but that's an important one because setting up 401ks, understanding your future. Everybody wants to retire someday. How do we help them achieve that goal? And what does that look like? So bankers just, we've had the same model for a lot of years. And I think it's time that we kind of look at the model and say, how can we tweak it to stay, the word we use at the bank is relevant. How do we stay relevant to our customers across the board? Yeah.
Well, I know in having some conversations with you, which are always so engaging, you've had to learn these things yourself. And this consulting that you're providing for small businesses, those have been really hard-fought lessons that you've worked through as you have been on this journey for 31 years. And I know we've had some great conversations about learning and leadership. And talk a little bit to the young leader that is maybe they're where you were at 30 years ago, and they've got a little bit of a team, and they're trying to grow themselves. They're working in the business. They'd like to work on the business. They'd like to invest in people, but they're so caught up sometimes in the firefighting. And how do they get out of that, and how do they become a leader?
The biggest one for me, Luke, I think that I learned early was to get mentors, right? Work with people that have been there and done that. It might not be exactly the way you would do it, but the leaders that I see struggle the most are the ones that think that they're not allowed to ask others. They think they have to know the answer.
Yes.
They think they have to know everything. And Luke, none of us are going to know everything, right?
No.
So we have to leverage each other's abilities. And that's why hiring at the bank, I try to hire people that are smarter than I am in all different aspects of the bank, as well as in entrepreneurship. So like I said, that marketing director, if she hadn't have been there, there's no way Richwood Marketing ever would have started. But when we saw it, it was like, okay, the kind of the light bulb went on. It's like, how do we leverage this? How do we move this forward? So doing the business plan, that's great. But that idea, it's going to come from some other place. But once you get rolling, it's leveraging people. You don't need to have all the answers. I read a lot of books, and there's some books I admit I don't make it to the end of, right? It's like, okay, I get that one, I'm going to put that one away. But there's some that I read more than once, just simply because of its lessons. There's a lot of great authors out there. There's a lot of great ideas and people that have been there, done that, and show you that other people have been there, right? Sometimes the entrepreneur feels like I'm on an island. I'm by myself. Nobody's ever been in my position before. And it's like, well, if you read around, it's actually a lot of people have been there. And, so you can kind of have that settling of your soul, right? Because you do have to have a thick skin, okay? Because, it sits on you at the end of the day. You're going to make some calls, and not every one of them are going to be right. And not everybody's going to agree with you all the time. That is sure as heck the truth as well. But if you've got a vision and you can sell it to others, hopefully the ones that believe in you, will ride along with you. And those that don't, you might part ways. And that's okay. Everybody needs to find their thing. If this is your thing, great. And if it's not, go find your thing, right? Whatever that may be. But, you and I have talked before about vision. And some people say it's a great, things that bring people together. And you and I both kind of agree. It's kind of things that set people apart as well.
Can be.
That, hey, if I don't agree with the vision of the direction you're headed, where it's probably time for us to part ways, whatever that looks like. But from a leader and from that entrepreneur, you just got to be able, what you say no to is just as important as what you say yes to, but just have that vision, have that comfort, but learn from others. Ask mentors, ask them so you can avoid some of the pitfalls that they have found. To avoid a mistake before you make it's always a great one, right? So, and the best way you do that is learn from somebody else. So just ask questions.
Yeah. I mean, so much. Go back and listen to the last couple of minutes there. He dropped several books worth of leadership gold there. But starting with mentors, and we've talked a lot about books. We had a meeting recently where we just geeked out about books for about an hour and a half.
Yep.
And you gave me a couple, which is my love language, which I super appreciated. And we're comparing notes again today on some of those. But you said it that. There's really nothing to be done that hasn't been done before and probably written about.
Agreed.
And, there's so many great books out there to read. Leaders are readers. I think we both believe that wholeheartedly. And you can have the very best mentoring minds in the entire world for like $17.99.
Yeah, it's absolutely true.
I mean, somebody invested a lot of hours in a book to share literally everything they know on a topic, whether it's leadership or, the technical aspect of a job or whatever. And it's out there for the taking. The information has never been more readily available and consumable than it is right now.
It started with me in 2006. They named me president about 9 months before I actually took over. Okay. So the succession plan was there. We knew what was happening on January 1. I was going to take over in 2007. And in the summer of 2006, I realized, oh, no, I don't know everything that I need to know by far to be the leader of this organization. And we were about 180.
Which is step one.
Yeah, that's step
having
one,
that
right?
Awareness,
yes, that awareness was huge. But we were about 180 million. We probably had 50 employees, and I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. So I started looking. I'd only read for entertainment up to that point, read novels all the time, but that was it. Found a book on banking. And it was funny. I read it. It was actually called, can't think. Extraordinary Bank.
Okay.
So I'm reading it, and I'm like, okay, I need more of these. So I looked it up, and here this person was a she actually taught bankers how to do better banking. So I ended up engaging. It was in a 20-year engagement with this person as my mentor, helped our organization to kind of understand what was possible.
Wow.
And, it was an extraordinary bank, and it was great. So just a little simple thing like that. And then I've been reading probably 2 business books a month ever since. And so it's been a lot of fun. That was back in 2007. So, there's been a lot of them. I had a lot of great authors, but the very first one was just one simply read about a bank. And if the first one I had read was kind of dull or I didn't like it, I'm not sure where I'd be today, Luke, but it wasn't. So if you've read one that you weren't impressed with, try another, please, because there's some great ones out there. And I have people ask me all the time, like, what am I reading now? Or what's my favorite book this year? And I love to share those things because there's some great material out there.
Yes. Yeah. About 15 years ago, I think I've shared the story maybe on here. If not, if so, I'll share it again. But, and that is that about 15 years ago, I heard this quote, and it was, in 5 years, you'll be the same person you are today, except for the people you meet and the books you read. And that really stuck with me. It really resonated. And I took action based on that.
Good for you.
And started going out of my way to meet new people of all shapes, sizes, backgrounds, walks of life, and reading in the same way that you described. And it's changed my life. I mean, and it's not that hard and it's not that expensive, but it's really, really impactful.
It really is. And I'm always disappointed with people that take positions like leadership positions and think they're done learning.
Yeah.
Right. Hey, I've hit the top chair.
Right.
I'm done. It's like, oh no, now's the time to start.
Yes.
Now's the time. I mean, now it's all falls on your shoulders. You need to learn even more than what you knew before.
Yeah.
And some people think that leadership position is kind of like the finish line, right? The checkered flag is down. I'm done. And I view it as the green flag. This is the time to start and learn. And so I encourage my entire leadership team. They get incentivized. We are constantly trying to learn new things, and I encourage them to read books. We share books. Books isn't always the thing. You can do podcasts.
Sure.
I mean, you're doing one
absolutely.
here where people can learn. So some people, are more, audio than visual when it comes to learning. But just keep learning.
Yeah.
Learn from people that have been there or have done other things. People, I think they feel like they're on an island, like I mentioned before, and that being alone is not a great field for humans. And many times we put ourselves there. We haven't kind of exposed ourselves to what's out there. And there's a lot of people trying to help. I mean, what you're trying to do for entrepreneurs, and we've both got friends that are constantly trying to help others, become better business people.
Yes.
And you don't need to have all the answers, but if you're diligent and you're persistent and you follow through, a lot of things are going to be successful for you, but learn from others that have been there.
Yeah. Yeah. Patrick Lencioni has a saying that I've heard him talk about, and that is that he doesn't like the term servant leadership because it implies that there's any other kind.
Agreed.
Right. So I know that you've taken that position and you are working to serve through leadership. As you said, getting to that top position, you realize A, how much you don't know, B, how much you have to learn, and C, that you've got a lot of people now relying on you and looking to you, and you've got to serve well to get and keep their trust. How have you, done that tactfully and tactically through your tenure that you're teaching others, you're investing in others, you're also advancing the organization? Sometimes people, feel a tension between investing in people and investing in the growth of the organization.
It is not natural for me. I don't know if you've ever taken the colors test where you are a specific color.
No, not
blue.
that one.
Blue, you're kind of you're kind of what I call the touchy-feelies. They're the people that are really emotional, right?
Okay.
There's the greens. The greens are your, if you think Big Bang Theory, okay, think Sheldon, right? Not a lot, just very problem solvers, right?
Yeah.
But not necessarily connectors with humans. Oranges are your adventurous people. And then your golds are what I would call your rule followers. They're going to be a lot of times your military people, that B follows A, C follows B. They like their rules. They like their checklists. Those 4 colors, I am green. So I love to problem solve, and building relationships with people is not my natural state, but you have to get outside of your natural state to learn. So again, I'm a CPA. always about the numbers. When I first started at my job at the bank, I didn't care whether people enjoyed their jobs or not, just get it done.
Right.
Well, I learned from my mentor that I talked about there with the book that, you know what, if people actually enjoy their jobs, their productivity is out of this world.
Right.
And there's nothing they won't do for you. So if you start to work on that and you start to see them enjoying it and you start to see their productivity. So now when we put the celebrate in our vision, we actually mean celebrate. I mean, we've got one that Thursday night this week. Our entire bank comes together. It's a voluntary event. And I usually get 75% of the people that come. And we go over awards. There's awards that people get for numbers that they've hit. There's awards that people get voted for. We have an attitude award that we call our Joy Lee Award. It's a girl that worked with us, and she sadly lost her fight with cancer the third time. But her name was Joy, and she just was a joy to all of us. Her attitude was so awesome all the way through her experience. And she could have been a person that was just depressed all the time for what she was experiencing, but she wasn't. So we name an award after. It's called the Joy Lee Award. It's my favorite one, but it's all about somebody that was recognized for having an awesome attitude. Yeah. And when they get that award on that night, we call them up on stage, we take pictures, we celebrate them. But it's just that recognition that other team members have recognized you as being kind of an awesome person. Yeah. And when you see that, now their productivity is going to be out of this world. Yeah. There's nothing they won't do for the rest of the organization. They're being appreciated, right? Yeah. And you mentioned Patrick Lencioni. He had a great book out there called The 3 Signs of a Miserable Job. And I think it's been retitled The 3 Signs of Employee Engagement now. Okay. But, the first one was anonymity, meaning nobody knows who I am. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I'm at work. Nobody knows my name. Nobody knows if I'm married, have kids. They don't care. The second one is irrelevant, meaning that what I do doesn't matter to the organization, right? I'm just here. What I do isn't very important. And the last one it's a word he made up called a measurement. I don't know whether I'm a good performer or a bad one. Nobody ever tells me am I doing a good job or not doing a good job. And if you don't get those 3 things at work, it's considered a miserable job, right? Yeah. And so we focus on all 3 of those things to make sure. We've got over 200 employees in the bank. I make sure I know every one of their names. I don't know every one of their spouses' names. I'll admit that openly. I try as hard as I can, but I don't. But it's just, I realize it's just Chad. It's just me. And if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, somebody's going to be the president tomorrow. But it is the president of the organization. And if it's a brand new person and the president, knows who you are and can call you by name, I have found that just is a little bit inspiring for them. Yeah. And, whether I take it as important or not, I'm kind of flippant with it. It's like, it's just me. But for them, it's something important. So to focus on things like that, Luke, and to acknowledge people and appreciate them for what they are has been huge in my experience. So that's the path that I've been down, and it's been a fun one.
Yeah, that is so good. And some of the things you talk about took me a long time. I'm a slow learner. Took me a long time to learn some of those things. I'm still falling on my face sometimes in getting it right as a leader and showing appreciation and recognition for people. But, if you're somebody out there that's listening, even you have a team of 2 or 200.
It doesn't matter.
It matters how you treat people and if they feel appreciated, and it's going to just matter so much with engagement. I talk with people and they're like, oh, I get, I'm paying them well. I'm giving them a bonus. Like I gave them a company truck or this or that. And of course they know that I appreciate it. Well, it's like, no, I bet that they would rather get the Joy Lee Award than a $3 raise. Most people, to an extent, you've seen the same studies that I have that money only matters to the point that it allows someone to be stable.
Agreed.
And then after that, it doesn't matter anymore. Right. Really. We think that it does. Our ego thinks it does and some things like that. But really what's going to matter to people is not being anonymous, not feeling like their work doesn't matter. Yeah. And to the extent that as leaders, we can do that for people and help them see how their work matters, that they're appreciated, that they're cared about, whether they're there or not, or how their life is going, because people bring their whole selves to work, absolutely, not just their work self. And if we can care for that whole person, man, we're going to have engagement, we're going to have longevity and tenure and all of those things that we all want. But sometimes we overcomplicate it, don't we?
Absolutely. No, we do.
We put all these bonus structures and this and that and carrots and sticks and policies and
sometimes it's just a thank you.
It is.
Well done.
Yes.
Sometimes it's as easy as saying, you are awesome. You know, you just did an incredible job with that. And just that acknowledgement can go so much further than some of the other things that we try to do and make a detailed, you know, incentive compensation plan and all this. And I'm not saying, like you said, those things are important. They have their place.
Sure.
But man, just that human to human connection, when you say you are awesome, you know, you just acknowledge their existence and what they did. It goes a long way.
It does.
Simon Sinek wrote a great book called Leaders Eat Last. And it's a great book. And he mentions right in there, I mean, in the military, the generals eat last. I mean, they make sure that their, you know, troops are the first ones fed, right? Because they're the ones getting the job done. And, you know, leaders should think the same way. You know, they always know when I'm in a meeting, I did this before I read the book, but it just made the book stronger. I always make sure everybody else has eaten before I'm going to go through. I'm not going to be the first one through that line. And so, you know, don't take your leadership position. I mean, it's a position that, if I mentioned it before, if one of the people at work say we win the lottery as opposed to getting hit by a bus, but let's say we're not the bank anymore for whatever reason, okay, whether you win the lottery or you're getting hit by the bus, somebody's going to replace us tomorrow, but it's going to be the feelings of those people that we leave behind. That's where your legacy lives, right? Is how you influenced people, how you touched them. And would you want to be remembered as that person that ignored them, that, you know, as soon as you're gone, you're pretty much forgotten? Or do you want to be that person that said, hey, you know what, I influenced an entire generation of bankers that, you know, want to do a better job tomorrow than they did today?
Yeah. Such an inspiration. And I think that, you know, a sign of that we're getting not just older, but also a little wiser is seeing some of those things and realizing as we think about things like legacy, you know, we look back, you know, is it more important that you're at a, you know, $1.4 million bank versus, you know, 900 million if people don't remember you fondly when you're gone? You know, I mean, those types of things. It's so easy to get fixated on the wrong metrics and the wrong things in business and life and, you know, what you're sharing. And I think that you might agree that being engaged with great thinkers, great leadership books and teachings and YouTube videos and podcasts and all of that is what keeps me grounded and keeps me from getting too far off the tracks.
Agreed.
That I can make little adjustments. Oh, okay. Yep. Old Luke showed up. I need to put him on the bus. And, you know, I said I wasn't going to do that. And I was reminded because I was, you know, listening to this thing today on my trip in between stops, or I, you know, read a few pages of a book this morning or whatever to keep my head on straight and keep calibrated.
I think that's a great way of saying it. And again, I go back to not only calibrated, but just knowing that other people have been in your shoes, right? Again, you're not alone. There's people out there ready to help, and that's huge for an entrepreneur because there are some lonely days, and you know it's going to happen. But just to know that other people have been there and done that and have gotten through it is huge. And I just think, you know, keep exposing yourself to those ideas, those, like you said, whatever it is, whether it's reading, podcasts, you know, videos, whatever that is. If you're growing your mind, don't just binge Netflix. Okay, I mean, you know, go out there and learn something. You know, grow your brain and you'll be amazed at what it can actually do.
Yeah. You've alluded to this a little bit, but as we kind of wind down, I mean, I literally, you know, could talk about this stuff for hours with you, and we'll continue doing that. And maybe we'll turn the mics on the next time again.
There we go.
But I love to ask the question of guests because I'm always trying to learn from them as well. And that is, do you have a favorite inspirational or educational resource? And again, I know you're so well read, and I won't make you limit it to one, but I want to give you a little bit of time to riff on maybe some of your top books that you're recommending or that have really made a difference to you in the last few years. What are some of those titles that come to mind?
Yeah,
and why?
there's a great one. Again, you've already mentioned him, and he's written so many great ones, but his most recent book is called The 6 Types of Working Genius, and it's Patrick Lencioni. And he just, in this book, he really nails kind of the things that are, you know, there's 6 different working geniuses, he calls them. It's basically types of work, right? And it spells the word widget. And it's, you know, you're a wonderer, you're an inventor, you're a discerner, you're a galvanizer. Yeah, you're an enabler, you're tenacious, right? So, you know, you're one of these 6, and 2 of them usually give you strength. They give you power. When you do those things, you just get energized, right? 2 of them you're just kind of competent at. You can do them for a period of time, but you know you eventually kind of wear out. And then 2 of them are what he calls your frustrations. If you've got to spend very much time doing it, it's kind of drive you nuts. and to know what kind of a person you are, and especially if you're on a team, to know what your team's strengths and weaknesses are, because if you find out you all have the same strengths, but you also all have the same frustrations, some things are getting missed.
Yeah.
Because all six are important in an organization, and to at least know where your strengths and weaknesses lie, I think can help on communication and how to get some things. It's kind of that aha moment, and that you said the self-awareness earlier, right? A little bit of self-awareness and to recognize. So Patrick's just one of my favorite writers. He's written a lot. You mentioned kind of the motive earlier about the motive of being a leader, and he only believes in one, even though there's two that are stated, but only one of them's legitimate. But Simon Sinek, again, I mentioned him earlier. He's one of my greatest reads when it just comes to just thinkers. The way he does things. The Start With Why book is really good. That's how we came up with our Inspire, Protect, and Celebrate. Was kind of a walk through that exercise, and we really appreciated that and didn't realize how important that was, but it kind of is our true north. So, it helps us do some of the things that we say no to is because it doesn't meet that standard. Yeah. So, Patrick and Simon are probably two of my biggest. Seth Godin's a great marketing mind. He's always fun to read. It's usually little snippets, little thoughts that he has, and he throws them out there. But it's very good to learn and see marketing, from a whole different aspect.
Yes.
So, those are probably the three biggest ones. Jocko Willink is a really good inspirational person when you read his stuff. Military background, leader background, but he's so disciplined, right? I mean, he's all about getting up at 4:30 in the morning, and I mean, it's tough to live his life, but if you did that, I mean, the discipline of your mind, the discipline of your body, and even your soul is huge. Maxwell, you mentioned him earlier, and he just to have that faith-based part, because I think we all have to. I have that. I think, I think that's an important part of being a leader. Yeah. I'm obviously a highly regulated industry, so I'm not allowed to have my Bible necessarily out on my desk all the time for human resource purposes. But at the same time, if you lead correctly, I think they can see it in your leadership and the way you behave. And I think that faith-based, that we're all equal in the eyes of God is huge to me. Now, sadly, in the eyes of the workplace, not so much, but, we always treat people with respect, even if it's letting them go. Because I don't want to say we never let somebody go. If it's not working out, they need to go find their thing. Yes. But we don't yell at people. We don't treat you with disrespect. If it doesn't work out, that's a calm conversation. Yeah. And that's how my managers are. That's how my leaders are. So it's to treat people like humans, no matter what the situation. To me, is very important. Yeah. So, it's those types of things, Luke, that, again, I can go on with a bunch of others, but just start somewhere.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Start reading, start leading. You learn as you go. You and I have both experienced that. You're farther down the road and have had older. Some incredible experiences that you've learned from. And if somebody's out there listening and they're not engaging, not learning the leadership aspect, again, even if you have one team member,
absolutely,
and that's it.
No, it doesn't matter how many.
You are on the journey, and somebody is relying on you, and you are a leader. Yeah. You are leading, and you have a great opportunity to impact that individual, your customer. I believe everyone is leading someone. Yep. Starts with leading yourself, and then radiates out from there. But
that's the toughest one, by the way.
Yeah, it sure is. But, you mentioned 5 or 6 great, fantastic authors. Yeah. Search them on YouTube, listen, and, there's a 5-minute video, there's a 20-minute video, there's an hour video from any of those guys, and you're going to be inspired, you're going to be educated, and I think you're going to get better. So,
and that's what we're here for.
Yeah, that's right. Chad, thanks once again, for this conversation. Again, our time has went super quickly, and I always enjoy great leadership minds and conversations, and just being able to learn from one another, encourage, because we're all on this journey, and can be challenging, sometimes lonely, and it's important that we have this community, and that we're all working for a purpose that's greater than ourselves.
Well, Luke, I appreciate the opportunity, and please keep doing the things you're doing, because you're doing some amazing things here in Marion, I know specifically, and just keep being that leader, keep being that point of inspiration, because other people are watching, and hopefully they will emulate some of the things that you're doing, and like you said, that future vision of the city can come to fruition, right?
Yep. That's what we're working towards. So Thank you again to our listeners and viewers here. We so appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate you sharing on social media and leaving your reviews and likes and all of that. Just really mean the world to us. I want to bring value and continue to seek out great guests like Chad today and others that we've had on to hopefully help you in your journey so that it is a little less lonely and a little less challenging as we share some of the things we've learned. So hope you'll tune in again next week, and we will see you then. Thanks for listening to the Main Street Reimagined podcast. To learn more about Main Street Reimagined, Henry Development Group, or our work in downtown Marion, Ohio, please visit mainstreetreimagined.com. If you want to connect, or if you know someone who we need to interview, shoot us an email at info@mainstreetreimagined.com. Until next time, keep dreaming and don't be afraid to take the leap.